Okay, ladies and gentlemen, here we are preparing to throw little green men into space, the moon, and beyond. Right now, basically, what we're going to do is I picked this up recently. I've been wanting it for a while, and I finally decided after getting a new job, which may cut into the amount of videos that I put up in the future because I may end up getting a third one, just because I need to save money really desperately in a very short period of time because I intend to be moving in about 6 months. Less. Nope, 6 months. Anyway, what we're going to do here is we're going to force you people to sit and watch as I learn how to play Kerbal Space Program. Tips and tricks and things like that are absolutely okay. One thing I will tell you is I know all about things like gravity turns and various other unsundries and things of that nature. And I will be, to the most part, trying to implement them as effectively as I can. If people are seeing that I'm doing it wrong with something like that, please feel free. Like, for instance, I tend to start my gravity turns after the atmosphere starts to thin a little bit. If I'm doing it too late, you can give me a suggestion of when to do it instead. If I'm doing it too early, you can give me a suggestion on that. But what I don't want people to do is tell me what I'm doing, like tell me how to play, because that's not really the goal. Tips and tricks are okay, but really what it is growing pains and things of that nature. And I'll get better at it as I go by. And frankly, I don't want to get too overly scientific about it. I know about things like asparagus stalks and so on and so forth, and those kinds of concepts that currently don't work effectively in real life, but do because we haven't designed ways to do it, but do with the various ease of parts. I may or may not be using them. I'll probably use them wrong, and people will give me a quick heads up that I'm doing it wrong, and I will work accordingly because of that. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to basically start this space program from the beginning, because I've dicked around with this for a little bit and gotten a basic understanding of controls and things of that nature. And so I'm going to work forward from there. But we're going to start pretty much from the beginning, and these Kerbals are going to move into space and beyond. Was that epic enough? I hope so. Kerbal P. Space failure. And so here's the basic interaction with the space station. You have a tracking station that right now is going to be incredibly uninteresting because it's just going to show us where all the planets and everything are. Here is our space system, the Kerbal Sphere of Influence, I should say, Kerbin. If people recall older versions, the last time that I played, this is what it consisted of. You had Kerbin and the Mun, which is approximately 11 million miles away. Now, with one of the more recent ones, they added in Minmus, which is an asteroid that is orbiting Kerbin. It's not really a moon, so to speak. But then they did some more stuff. Like, here we are with all these other planets. We've got 4 other main planets. We've got Eve, which is the closest. Duna, which is the next closest. Moho, which is basically like Mercury. Got like Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars. And then Jool, which is a gas giant. Now, each of these systems... how do I make focus? Target Mun, target Minmus, target Moho. Now, each of these systems then have their own little planetoids. Moho has no moon. I have to sneeze. You're welcome. Moho has no moon. It is just it itself. Eve has one elliptical craziness moon, which is Gilly. Duna has one moon, Ike. And then there's Jool, which is like a solar system in and of itself. Jool is incredibly, incredibly difficult to get to from everything that I've read. Because of how far away it is and many other factors. we'll see how far we get. My inevitable goal is going to be to get everywhere. I know that there are Easter eggs on certain planets. In my digging around, I actually found one on the Mun. I found well, you'll see when we get there. So that's the tracking station. And when you have stuff in there, you can see it flying around. You can switch around between it, things of that nature. Over here, we've got the space plane hangar, where you can build space planes. And the space planes basically are just like they sound. They're planes. Take off from landing strip, land on a landing strip. You can also, in reality, build them on a rocket and then land them that way. I'm interested in trying that, but we'll see where that goes. And then, of course, the launch pad. Most of our time is going to be spent here in the vehicle assembly building. So for our first thing, what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to get an orbital in space, in orbit, and then back to the ground. Now, with the SAS modules, you can use these and they work on a basis of weight ratios, mass ratios, and torque ratios. It's actually easier just to put a single advanced SAS module on it. It is by far better. Oops, I don't want that there. We need to do something else first. We need to put, not that decoupler, a decoupler on it so that we can decouple out of that and advanced SAS. Now, for when we get into space, oh yeah, we should put a parachute on this too. For when we get into space, we're going to need some way to control the ship because fins are not going to do it. So we're going to put a couple of RCS fuel tanks on it, even though it's adding a lot of weight. I know. Now, basically, I should break this down. These are all the parts. You've got propulsion, command and control, which are things like SAS modules, RCS thrusters, canards and winglets and things like that. Structural and aerodynamic, most of these are just for show right now because a lot of the heat physics and aerodynamic physics are not in the game fully. Utility and scientific, like landing struts, ladders, landing gear, and parachutes. And then these two are currently not used. As you can see, there is a button here that changes symmetry. You can have between either placing each one individually or 2, 3, 4, 6, and 8-way symmetry. For our RCS thrusters, we're going to use 4-way symmetry. Pop them right there. They can actually be anywhere on the ship, and it won't matter. We're going to put 2 sets of RCS thrusters on this bad boy. I'm going to stagger them like that, even though it doesn't really need to. And this is its control system for in space. This right here is all that's coming back to Earth. Kerbin, coming back to Kerbin. So now let's build the orbiter. Now this right here is what we're going to put in orbit. This is actually going to weigh a lot for a simple orbiter. And that's kind of problematic, but that's okay. I'm okay with that. And now we need to slap another decoupler on here. No, you know what? Yeah, we're going to slap another decoupler on here and do a try thing to get a good orbital launch vehicle. And let's give ourselves the fuel to get upstairs. And now we're going to want 3-way symmetry, so that will snap it to all 3 of those. We're using liquid fuel because it is adjustable in its thrust. Since we're just going into space, whoa, I don't want jet fuel. 3 tanks ought to be enough to get us up there. And this is a basic orbital launch rocket. Now, I do want to do one other thing. I like to use some solid boosters just to get it off the ground. And I do like to use a lot of them because I'm crazy. I know it's terrible. It's adding a lot of weight. But it's adding a lot of weight with a serious amount of thrust. Pound for pound, you can't get better. And now we're going to tape it all up. Basically, we've got these strut connectors, which we are going to use to make a cage so that we get very little wobble in these engines. Because wobbly engines can do very, very bad things. Very, very bad things. And then because these will still shake within the frame, we're going to connect them there. Still fearing shake within the frame on this one. Okay. Now that will do that. I do want to brace this down like so that that doesn't wobble either. And let's see what else could be necessary. Fins! We need wings. Alright, so let's get some winglets in here. We're going to put winglets on there to basically stop further wobble. Alright, so here we have a not quite basic orbiter. This should be able to give us a fairly high orbit. And it will probably be ridiculous at how quickly it will go there. Now let's check our launch thing. It should already be set up automatically because this is a pretty basic rocket without a lot of parts. So we've got these two are going to decouple. Okay, so first what's going to happen is the solid boosters are going to fire. And then we're going to decouple those once they run out of fuel. Then the main three engines down there are going to fire. When they run out of fuel, we're going to break that decoupler that's going to drop that. And then the center engine of the orbiter will fire. We're going to primarily try to use that to get us back to stabilize our orbit and then get us back into the atmosphere. And then that will decouple off, and then the parachute will come down. All right. Let's see who they give us as our poor Kerbal. Corny Kerman. Oh, and he's terrified just sitting on the launch pad. All right. So we're going to turn on our SAS, and that's going to, as you can see, it's going to wiggle about because it's wobbling in the wind right now. We're going to throttle up, even though actually before I do that, I'm going to demonstrate something about it. Okay, here it's going to list all of our stages. It starts at the lowest stage and goes back. And down here you can see that it demonstrates your pitch, roll, yaw. Because the SAS is on, those are kind of going all over the place. If we turn it off, they will center. Here we have our radial ball that tells us where we're going, what direction we're heading, and what our throttle level and G-forces are. Within the green is normal. We don't want to hit that 0, and we don't want to... Hold on, I got to sneeze again. We want to try to avoid staying in that 0, and we want to... because that will overdo our drag and can rip the ship apart, and we don't want it to go too far that way. Because then we're not getting enough thrust that we should be getting. This is our atmospheric thickness. This is our current vertical speed. And this is our current altitude. Over here we have the launch time and the warp speed. And here we have our little Kerbal, who is probably utterly terrified. Now, what I'm going to show you is, as you can see, we have 0 throttle. The reason that Solid boosters should never be used for more than getting you off the launch pad. I know that much just from knowing anything about space travel. And the reason for that is with solid boosters, you cannot control the throttle at all. It's just like a firework that you light it and it burns, and that's it. Once it's ignited, it's burning at full speed. That's all there is to it. When it runs out of propellant, then it's gone. With the liquid fuel, you can adjust the throttle and it will change it. But right now, we're not going to be able to. And let's begin our Kerbal Space Dreams. Our orbiter will launch in 5, 4, 3, 2, mark. Alright, so far we got a good solid launch. We're going straight up. As you can see, there's no throttle, but the fuel is burning at that, and you turn it up and it's not going to matter. We are just hovering above normal G-force. And we are gaining speed incredibly rapidly. We might be a little bit over where we're going to, and Corey is horrified. And our solid fuel boosters have run out. Kick on the liquid fuel boosters now that he's out in space. Well, not in space, but now that he's left the launch pad. Now that the air atmosphere has thinned out, let's begin our roll. Cut it 60 degrees. We had a little bit of a rotation on there, and I don't like that, but there's not a lot we can do about that right now. Corny is terrified. Don't think it's been very well tested, do you, buddy? Okay, 1/3 of our fuel is gone. Let's trigger another. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Got a little bit of a roll. And let's stabilize it there, and this should be a basic gravity turn. It's a very basic one. And there we go. Expanding that. Once we get out of the atmosphere completely, we're going to cut our engines. But right now we're still in the thinnest part of the atmosphere. And I don't yet want to let drag take over. Alright, we're going to drop our engines out now. And we're going to coast for a minute because we're going to move closer to our apoapsis. That's our farthest point from the planet and generally the place where we have the slowest rate of speed. And we're going to move closer to the apoapsis. Speed up the time a little bit. All right, right about here is where we're going to level off a little bit. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to turn to our apoapsis. Ooh, let's turn on our RCS thrusters. Wrong way, wrong way. Stop, stop, stop. And we're just going to slowly drift our angle to point right at our apoapsis. All right, turn our SAS back on. And now we're going to just do a slight... Oh, we passed it. Shit. We're just going to do a slight burn. And hopefully expand our direction out a little bit. Probably should have pushed that up to about 100,000 meters. Now, we're not using very much fuel here right now, because what we're just trying to do is expand this arc out. We are a little late. I wanted to do it before we hit the apoapsis, so we may not hit orbit this time. We may have a relaunch of the orbit, because I derped a little bit and started too late. We are aiming a little bit higher than our direction, so we should continue expanding that out. We're going to run out of fuel in a minute. We are losing altitude. Alright, this tank is going to lose altitude, and then we're going to lose altitude. It's about to run out of fuel. Kick that off. Fire this booster. Yeah, it looks like this one's going to be a failure. Due to misjudgment of timing. What happens if I give him some more juice? We will get an orbit out of you yet. Question is whether or not we will have enough fuel to get back down. Nope, we're closing it out. We've hit the atmosphere and we are going down. All right. Roll off of that. The reason to have the SAS on, it doesn't exist anymore. Whoa, okay. Maybe not. Maybe not. And so we are headed back down to the planet. One of the things that they need to add into this game, quite honestly, is they need to add friction with the atmosphere. Because right now this thing should be burning up. And it's not. Corny is horrified. I don't know why. Not like you're not going to survive there, buddy. We get a little bit lower down. We're going to open the drag chute. Whoa! What's that for terrifying for you there, Corny? Wait a little bit more. We hit 300 meters a second. We're going to pop the chute. Don't want it to rip off. As hilarious as that would be. You're going to live, Corny. You're going to live. Relax, my friend. Relax. Okay, when he hits about 500 meters, that chute should pop open fully. Look at him. He's gotten happy now. He's like, oh, thank God, the ground. Why did you become an astronaut, man? You're afraid of space. You're afraid of space, and you became an astronaut. Let's just ease this down a little bit faster. All right, buddy, there you go. And he's going to get touchdown. All right, and we will leave him there. He should still be there. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to do another launch, a relaunch with this, because we already know what we fucked up. Now, Noonan, it's your turn. As you saw, the last one did not explode. Amazingly. And we're just going to basically go ahead and try this again. This time with less derping, because I should be able to do this. We've done it before. Now we just have to time things correctly, which we didn't last time. Set on fine control so that we have better control over everything. I know that that sounds kind of loud. Let's zoom out a little ways, maybe quiet it up. It sounds really loud in my headphones, but I don't think that it's going to, be as loud in there. Now, the reason I'm not doing full throttle is because they can and will overheat, and as they overheat, they lose efficiency. And actually, they lose efficiency regardless, so hit the edge of that. So let's roll this bad boy over. Oh, 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 oh. Whoa, 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 whoa. We got a little wonked. Don't worry, Noonan. Just because you can't control a ship doesn't mean you're screwed. It means he's screwed. But you're going to get into space. And you're going to orbit. You're going to succeed. Where your buddy failed. I think we're going to stay straighter longer this time. I don't think I'm going to roll over the rest of the way until we hit around 50,000 meters. Because we learned that we didn't get a high enough apoapsis. We were just barely outside of the atmosphere, and we want a little bit more distance between us and the planet than that. So we're going to wait for 50,000 meters. And we're going to roll over a little bit further. Calm down, Noonan. Okay. Goes down a little bit. Goes back up a little bit. All right. Let's go to the map room and take a look at what we've got. Okay, this is going to put us much higher up, 220,000 meters. It may be a little bit more than intended, but I don't care. I'm going to let this continue to roll until it gets where we want it. Turn RCS on to readjust. And now we just got to wait a little bit. Let's get a little over halfway there. Right about there. Whoa, 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 stop, 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 stop. That's not the button I meant to hit. Right about there. And then we'll turn the SAS off. No, stop, 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 stop. All right. We're going to go pretty much straight vertical. And we're going to kick our speed up a little bit. Not a whole lot, because what we're really just trying to do is expand this ring out we tried to do before, but did it too late. We were already past the apoapsis by the time we did it. And when you do that, all you're really doing is burning yourself closer to the planet faster. That's not the goal. Not the goal at all. And as you can see, we're not burning very much. The reason that we're not is because we don't really need to at the moment. We're out in space. As we get closer to the apoapsis, once the apoapsis is directly in line with that, I am going to burn a lot faster, because I'm going to try to straighten it out quicker and push that apoapsis away. Because what we're doing, we're out of there's no friction from the atmosphere. Right now we're just counteracting gravity, trying to slow us back down, and we're trying to just do a small impulse burn to expand this ring. As you can see, it expands it lopsided, but it'll even out. All right, let's burn this back a little higher, and that'll make this go faster. In case of desperation, we have RCS thrusters to get this guy back on the ground. We may just leave him in orbit. Bring the fuel burn back down. We're almost out of one tank. Almost got a full orbit. One tank is empty. Now this is not a true orbit because this is below the atmosphere. So that will actually pull us back down to the planet. And we're going to wait till we get back over here, and then we're going to burn again because we're going to try to get this to be closer to that. I'll land pretty close to the lander right there. A little bit further. Let's roll this back down again. Primarily, this should expand that out. These two are going to flip as they approach each other. And here we go. We have established an orbit of Kerbal. How do you feel about that, Noonan? You're fucking horrified. No reason to be scared, buddy. Look at that. You're orbiting the planet. Look. Look. You are the first Kerbal ever to orbit the planet. Why are you scared? Why are you so scared? Let's flatten that out a little bit more. Oh, no, 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 no. Whoa. Alright, that's good. Here you go, little man. Look at that. Orbiting the planet. Alright, let's bring this guy back down to Kerbin. So all we're going to really have to do for that is roll him back over here. Probably be much easier to do this if I turn on RCS. Stop rolling. Nose up a little bit and there. Alright, and then we just start doing a slight retro burn. And this will start to narrow us back down. We've really only got to get it close enough to get it back in the atmosphere. We should have enough fuel for that. And the retro burn is going to slow us down really fast. He's already going to be going home. He's going to make it home. Because right there, that already crosses inside the atmosphere. Alright, let's just cut the engines here. Speed it up a little bit. Go ahead and separate from the rest of the rocket. Even though it doesn't matter, makes me feel better. Alright. Here you go, little buddy. He's entering the atmosphere. Friction's going to start slowing him down. Looks like he's going to have a splashdown. Might make it over land. He might make it over land. There's a possibility he might land close to Kerbal Space Station. Now he's starting to hit the thicker parts of the atmosphere. He's going to start slowing down real hard. Did you just pass over the space station? Might have. Alright, at 300 meters a second, we're going to pop the chute. That'll start to add a little bit more drag. Looks like he's going to land on that mountain there. Ooh, gotta be careful. I should have turned off warp on that, because if you're warping when there, sometimes physics happens and parts rip off everything. And it looks like he's going to safely touch down. So our first mission is a success. He achieved orbit around the planet and spent 5 hours orbiting Kerbin. Come on, pop that straight up. Spent 5 hours orbiting Kerbin and landed on the side of a mountain somewhere near Kerbal Space Station. Well done. Good job, little man. I'd be happy too. The first Kerbal to make it into space, achieve orbit, and return. You and, what's his name there, are fucking heroes. Alright. So our next mission, when we come back, we're going to try to make it to the moon, and orbit the moon and return. We're not currently going to be trying to put a Kerbin onto the moon. We're not going to land on the moon yet. We're just going to try to get to the moon, achieve an orbit, and then return. We don't want to leave him out there. We're gonna try to bring him back home. We want to bring most everyone back home. I'm not rescuing anyone, so you can all go screw yourselves. If I leave somebody on a fucking planet, they're there to stay. All right. I will see you guys later, and I hope that you enjoyed Kerbal Space Program. I will assure you that this is going to get fairly ridiculous fairly quickly, starting with the trip to the moon, because I am not very good at that. All right. I will see you guys next time as we continue to learn Kerbal Space Program.